Let's get ready to story!
There's only one in here. This is all for dramatic effect. Who could it be? This person probably knows. Barb Rognoni? Where's she at? Well, this table, you guys are stacking the decks. That's why you sat there, isn't it? Come on up, Barb. Put your hands together for Barb, everybody.
Hello, everybody. My name's Barbara Rognoni, and I grew up in Jessup, surrounded by family, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins. Everybody lived in Jessup, mostly on my street. I lived on Morgan Street, right down by the river. You know, I first heard the phrase, "It takes a village to raise a child," when Hillary Clinton said it. And as I thought about that phrase, I realized that Jessup had been doing it that way for as long as I could remember. And it was a good thing. I always felt safe here. There was always somebody watching me. On the downside, there was always somebody watching me. I got away with nothing. Wherever I was, if there was a hint of trouble, somebody out there, one of you people, were calling my mother and father. And every time I got ratted out, my father would say this: "Use your brain, use your brain. You gotta use common sense." It never changed. Those were the words, this was it. I must have heard it 150 times. I remember when the first time I heard it, probably was the worst moment of my life. I received First Holy Communion at St. Mary's Church. I remember every time I took communion, I would gag and get sick. Being 7 and really stupid, I decided that I was going to take the host out of my mouth and put it under the pew. Well, I did this about 3 or 4 times before Rose Marcagiani saw me and told my mother, and next thing I know, I was off to see Father Mecca. If that wasn't punishment enough. For the next month, I had to go to the convent every Saturday and clean the chapel. Does anybody remember Sister Fausta? Very rigid, very strict. She had those clippers. Clip, clip, stand. Clip, clip, kneel. Clip, clip, walk. I think before she went to bed, she used to say, clip, clip, sleep. Anyway, I'm going to let you in on a secret that I have never told anyone before tonight. Those days that I went to the convent, I never cleaned. Sister Fausta would take me to the chapel, and we would say the rosary, and then we would eat homemade donuts and play parcheesi. And Sister taught me how to get lots of spit in my mouth so that the host wouldn't stick to the roof of my mouth, and I would swallow it very quickly. So, I was always in little troubles anytime somebody from the village decided to rat me out. One time when I was a teenager, I was hitchhiking through the Poconos. A 7-Up truck stopped to pick us up. When I opened the door, there was Arthur Massetti. He hollered at me all the way home, and then told my father. Well, I had to hear a roundup. Use your head, use your head, use your common sense. I was one of the hippies that hung out over on the corner over there, Blackie's Corner. We were the scourge of the police chief, Pat Kane. One night he got so fed up with us, he rounded us up, took us up to the jail, and then called our parents. Guess what I heard all the way home? Brain, common sense. Well, one day my father was out in his vegetable garden. A stranger walked right out of the woods into his garden. The guy said his car had broken down, he was lost, he had an emergency, he had to go to Dixon City. Well, my father, Mario Rognoni, good guy that he was, puts him in the car and off they go to Dixon. He gets to Dixon and the man says, Oh, I made a mistake. I was supposed to be in Providence. So my father kept driving, but now he's a little leery. They get to Providence, and the guy wants him to go further, but Mario had had enough, got him out of the car. When he got back home, he found out Looney's Market had just been robbed, and he had driven the getaway car. My family said nothing, but I know what they were thinking. Brains, common sense. So, I lived for years in Philadelphia. And then my husband died and my parents were getting old, so I decided to move back to my beloved town. I marveled at the friendliness that hadn't changed at all. 30 years in Philadelphia and I barely knew my neighbors. 1 week in Jessup and people were waving at me as I was driving around. So, did I come back good? Yes. Was it a good thing? Well, on the downside, within a month, my Aunt Mary Leachy was calling my mother to tell her that Tony Leachy had seen me in a car at 6:30 in the morning, and I was probably out partying all night. I didn't bother to straighten them out and tell them I was really on my way to work. I definitely didn't want to burst Aunt Mary's bubble. She finally had somebody to look out for again, and I finally had somebody to watch over me. So that's my story of Jessup. Dad, I got it. Thank you.
That was great.